Viewers, welcome to TV Metro Mail. You are watching Chit Chat, and I'm Imamul Haq. And today we have a very special episode of Chit Chat because we have some extraordinary people with us today. I am joined by a number of remarkable people, those who serve, and some of them are still serving World Food Program. And we all know that last week news that World Food Program receives 2020 Nobel Peace Prize. We are going to celebrate that achievement of WFP. We all are WFP former colleague, or we are working in WFP. Some of our current colleagues have joined us as well. So let me bring them on screen first. Okay, so few of them here, some of them they will join us later. So let me begin with saying congratulations to all of you, and thank you very much for serving the humanity. So viewers, let me introduce you to our today's remarkable guest. First, I can see here Douglas Casson Coates. Yeah, he was our country director, World Food Program, Bangladesh. And we have Mahbubul Alam. He was also working for WFP Bangladesh and in North Korea and Afghanistan. He was the area head of the Afghanistan and North Korea emergency officer in North Korea. We also have Abu Bakr Siddiq, currently working for World Food Program in Yemen. He has joined us from Yemen. We also have Julie Marshall. Julie Marshall is from Canada. She is based in Hamilton, I believe. And she is looking after the communication of World Food Program in Canada. We have Trevor Page. Trevor Page is he was a country director of World Food Program. In fact, he was the first World Food Program Bangladesh country director. He has joined us from Alberta. And we can see here Sharfuddin, AKM Sharfuddin from Bangladesh. Though we are having some connection issue with him, but he has joined us from Bangladesh, and we are expecting few more people will be joining us soon. So I think let me start with a small video clip which will help us to initiate the discussion. So here is the
Norwegian Nobel Committee has decided to award the Nobel Peace Prize for 2020 to the World Food Programme for its efforts to combat hunger. For its contribution to bettering conditions for peace in conflict-affected areas. And for acting as a driving force in efforts to prevent the use of hunger as a weapon of war and conflict.
Thank you very much. I'm sure you all must be very excited. As we saw that last week, after the news, the executive director of World Food Program, he was so excited. He was saying, first time in his life, he was speechless. It was tremendous for him. So I just like to know, what happened to you or what came to your mind when you first got the news. Anyone can start. Douglas? You have to unmute yourself first.
I do. Yes. I think we all would agree that the work is its best reward, and I think though for all of us, it's still nice to be recognized. I think we all knew what we were doing along the way, but the fact that the Nobel Peace Prize has been awarded is very special. And again, we should stress it's not the Nobel Humanitarian Prize, it's the Peace Prize, and it's the role that what we've been doing assists in creating and maintaining and sustaining peace. And that's something that that our new executive director Beasley, talks a lot about, and it's a key theme, I think, that the Nobel Committee picked up on.
Okay, thank you very much, Douglas. I think we have with us. Have we lost him, Trevor, or Trevor is still there? No.
Uh-oh.
I think we lost Trevor. So no problem. So anybody can share their feelings.
Hi.
Yes.
When I just heard the message, this was probably one of the happiest moment in my life, and working WFP quite a long time, almost 3 decades. Somehow back in my mind was that WFP would one day be recognized, but how and when and where, that was not known. But the 9th October really gave me biggest surprise that I never thought that it will happen in my lifetime, that Nobel Committee will recognize World Food Program.
That's great. That's great to know. So Trevor, you started WFP operation in Bangladesh. So what is your feelings about WFP's winning the Nobel Prize 2020?
Well, I'm over the moon. It's been a long time coming. We've been nominated before, but I think it's recognition of a UN agency which is actually able to do things. It delivers the goods. We were relatively unknown for us for 30 years. I joined the organization way back in the early 60s as one of the original staff. And so I was very, very pleased. I'm very proud and continue to be involved with WFP and the UN system generally. So I thought that was great news, uplifting for us, uplifting for those that really want to see the UN principles implemented on the ground and making it better for the world's most disadvantaged. I was happy.
Thank you very much, Trevor. So Julie, how did Canadian media respond to this news?
Oh, it was overwhelming, actually. When I first heard, because of the time difference, it was early in the morning. So I have a habit, as we all do, just picking up our phone as we open our eyes in the morning. And my first reaction is, oh my gosh, this is fantastic. And then it was, oh my gosh, how much work are we going to do today? So it's sort of a matter of jumping out of bed and into action. And it was a good job I did, because it was overwhelming. I got one call after the other from top tier media. From the Globe and Mail, the Canadian Press, CBC Radio, the national community newspapers. It was picked up throughout Canada, which is really, really good to see, because it's very difficult sometimes to get traction for our stories in Canada. And this one was such a good story, such a heartwarming story, and it makes everyone in the organization feel very, very proud.
Thank you, Julie. Last night, somebody was telling me that this year, in 2020, the Peace Prize, there is no debate, nothing, because everybody is happy. So that's a good news. Yeah, that's a good news for us.
Very much so.
Yeah. So is there anybody else who wants to share their feelings, emotion? Shahid Bhai, Shahidul Haq?
It was great, actually. I was so happy, and the hard work we put on at it actually to produce something, and I was very, very happy actually.
Okay, thank you very much. We'll come to that how you work in the field when you were with the World Food Program. So Sharfuddin, he wants to say something, I believe. Sharfuddin bhai, you are there? Okay, I think he can't hear us, but no problem. I think he is having some issue. So now let us, start talking about something else. Say, for example, this year.
Okay, he's back.
But can you hear us, Shafuddin bhai? Okay, no problem. I think we are having some issues.
Yes,
so what I would like to ask, any of you can respond back to that. That does this year's the prize, the Nobel Peace Prize, has any particular significance while we are facing, the global pandemic, and we are having some economic issues around the world. So what do you think about that?
Well,
Would like
I
to,
could step
yeah,
in here. I
yeah.
mean, it couldn't have come at a better time. For the World Food Programme right now, we estimated that 2020 was going to be one of the worst years for hunger since World War II. And we were seeing numbers rise because of conflict and because of climate change and economic downturn. And that was all before COVID hit earlier this year. So those numbers are rising. We're seeing an 80% increase in the world's hungry. So from 149 million people, we could look at 270 million people this year going hungry. So it really couldn't have come at a better time to put the spotlight on hunger, and the connection between hunger and conflict, as around 10 out of our 13 food crises right now are in hunger and conflict zones.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Julie. So Douglas?
I agree with Julie. I was going to make the same point. Given the increased need now, it's the best possible time, especially this issue of COVID and the pandemic and the suffering, and a good news, positive story right now to recognize WFP and WFP's work, but in particular, given the need. I mean, really, at the end of the day, guys, it's not about us and WFP. It's about our partners and our beneficiaries and those who we work with and advocate for. And that's what it's really all about. And Julie has explained that well, that really the need is greater than ever. And the world's just needed a good positive news story right now. I think that's probably helped a lot with all the level of interest. I know I've been amazed in the work that I'm doing a bit on the academic side, lecturing on humanitarian work and that with on what WFP does, and it's amazing all the interest coming up now. Can you do a seminar? Can you do this? Can you talk to our students? We're all doing it virtually, of course, but there's this renewed interest in all that we do and what we stand for, and that's a very positive thing.
Thank you very much, Douglas. If there is anybody like to respond to this, otherwise we'll move to the next question.
No, let me just pick up,
okay,
if I may, to what Julie said, and it's news to her too. It only just came in a second ago. We got the front page of the Lethbridge Herald this morning, which I'm trying to put up here in front of the camera. Okay, so WFP is on the front page of the Lethbridge Herald this morning, and Julie, I'll be sending it up to you.
Okay, thank you very much, Trevor. Let me move to the next question, which I would like to ask you, that while announcing that the award to WFP, the Nobel Committee categorically mentioned two specific things. Let me read out their specific words. They said that they appreciated WFP's efforts to combat hunger and its contribution to bettering condition for peace in conflict affected areas. So my question is, how is WFP assistance continuing to combat hunger, as they mentioned there? And is there any specific approach that or model WFP is following across the world? So who would like to start?
Well, I can kick you off if you like in terms of WFP's involvement in conflict areas and how it is in fact reducing hunger in these areas, which can lead towards peace. I was responsible for Operation Lifeline Sudan in the Sudan, divided, and South Sudan came. And WFP, in fact, was able to negotiate with both government.
I think we are having some issue with Trevor, so let him come back again. But meanwhile, we have number of the audience, the viewers. They have joined us. They started putting comments, which some of the comments I have already put there. Trevor is trying. And anyway, so can we just let us take one question from an audience. Nusrat Swati, she is asking us that we hear that WFP convoy coming under attack in conflict zones, Sudan. Do you think winning the Peace Prize would put pressure on government and stakeholders to work more harmoniously? So, who would like to respond to that?
Well, I was talking to our office in South Sudan just this morning, and we are still delivering goods. We had, in fact, a convoy, river convoy, attacked just last week. We appeal to both the government and to the factions to let us deliver our food. So we can't say that we're going to have blanket peace for this to happen. Just where we can, we come up with ad hoc arrangements, but Sudan is one of the, or South Sudan, one of the hotspots at the moment. Yemen is another one that we're working in. So, yeah, there's no blanket, oh yes, because we won the Nobel Peace Prize, we're going to be able to take care of the hungry in all these conflict zones. No, but this will help us.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you very much, sir.
I'd like to add something with Mr. Pei.
Yeah.
I was working in Malakal, and we were sending our river convoys to Jongle and this was attacked twice on the way. Then we had to find a way how we have to send food and we have to satisfy the people on both the river sides. So we had to negotiate with the paramount chiefs and this tribal chiefs, and they were also in need of food. So we targeted few of the population on the riverside, those who attack. These attackers are not always the bad people. They are also in need of food, and they feel that the food is going in front of us and to another place, and we are not getting that. So we had to find out a way. We distributed food on both the sides of the river and reached the targeted area, the Jongle, the province which was in need of food more than the other areas. So WFP, you have to innovate. There are ways and means how to operate. There is a standard guideline, there is a standard procedure, but sometimes we have to deviate that standard procedure and guidelines to reach our target groups.
Thank you, Mahbub Bhai. I can see more comments from Syed Khabir Ahmed, one of our previous colleague. Congratulations to you all. Please join you in celebration. Indeed, it's very well deserved recognition. Feeling really proud. Thank you very much. Same here. So, Julia, I'd like to come to you because one idea we have, the picture we have got from our previous colleagues, that it is not very easy to distribute food in the remote areas, particularly the conflict-affected zones. So, how this kind of news is being covered or being, covered in the mainstream Canadian media?
I'm not sure I understand the question.
The question is that we are having very difficult times in remote areas, particularly the conflict-affected zones and areas, and the food distribution is not an easy task. So we often have an incidence there. So whether these kind of incidents are covered in the mainstream news in Canada.
Yeah, it's very difficult, to be honest, to get any WFP stories in the mainstream news in Canada. There is few international foreign affairs correspondents that are really, this is all that they do, and very often they're looking south to the border and at what Trump is doing. So it's very difficult. They very often just cover the conflicts, so something like Yemen and Syria in the past, and occasionally South Sudan. But it is difficult to really get any traction on these kind of stories. But what this award will do is hopefully put those people in need in the center of the political agenda, and really help us get more of these stories out, and to really make that connection between hunger and conflict and vice versa. And once we can do that and it becomes more mainstream, we should be getting more stories and more understanding of the work WFP is doing.
And currently WFP is running the one of the largest refugee operation in Bangladesh. It's the Rohingya operation. I believe that this Rohingya operation has got the kind of deserved attention in the media in Canada.
Yeah, I believe so. I think it really helps that our UN ambassador, the Honourable Bob Rae, has visited and is constantly pushing the message that we need to continue to support the refugees there. So it really does help our work. And it is a story that it seems to resonate well in Canada as well. So that is helpful. For instance, we've done something quite neat for World Food Day. What we've done is we've taken masks that were made by the host community in Cox's Bazar, women. It's a WFP livelihoods program that is funded by Canada. We've taken these masks and we've mailed them to all the politicians, all the parliamentarians and senators across Canada with a postcard introducing ourselves and talking about the work that we're doing in partnership with with Canada. So we've just opened a new office here in Canada in March. We promptly closed it 4 days later because of COVID, but we really want to promote our presence here in Canada and increase our partnerships. And this is one way of doing that and introducing ourselves and also introducing this important story and the work that we're doing in Bangladesh.
Thank you very much, Julie. Thank you very much. I would also like to, because since we started talking about Rohingya refugee operations, we would like to know more about that. I don't know whether it's now or not, maybe a later part of the program. But I would like to ask, because we have two country directors, those who really worked very actively in Bangladesh while their tenure in Bangladesh. So WFP started its operation in 1961, and currently it is serving or providing food assistance to almost 100 million people. But I'd like to ask that WFP's focus was relief. But we found gradually it has moved his relief operation. They are doing that relief operation, but they are also started working with the development program. So what is the reason and how it works? Any of our previous country director can take up this, the issue and talk.
Yeah, I can start on that one if you like. When WFP started its operations, in fact, for the first 30 years, our primary focus was on development. 70% of our resources basically went to development and 30% to emergencies, emergency relief. Now, in Bangladesh, we started in 65. And basically the situation in 75, excuse me. The situation at that time was one of a very severe food shortage in the country. And what the country needed was food, but on top of that, it needed employment. So although we started what some people will call a relief operation, what we did was start massive food for work projects, which the government picked up. And General Zia Rahman, who was the president at the time, put his back behind that instantly. And we had as many as 3 million people working. They were working, they were paid in food, in rice, in fact, in wheat. And so our focus was on development to rehabilitate irrigation canals and drainage canals and to build flood control embankments. But it was very much a relief works program for development purposes.
Thank you.
So we started that way, and now we've gone on to all sorts of interesting things. That it's a pity Richard Regan, who's our country director there at the moment, is not on too. I was reading an excellent story in the Dhaka Tribune yesterday about the various innovative things the WFP is doing there now.
Yeah, thank you very much. So Douglas, do you have anything to add on this?
Trevor has explained, globally what the situation was with the 70-30 split back in the early days, the first 30 years. Yeah, and then in the 80s and 90s, it simply went the other way, where development was sort of 30% and later then 20% and less of what we were doing globally. We become much more known as a humanitarian, relief organization in the meantime. But we've never lost sight of the fact that we were pioneers, Trevor in particular, in Bangladesh, in the development side, in the food for work, as he explained. And I should point out here that, look, for those of us who had the privilege of being country directors in Bangladesh, all of us, we all talk about this. We won the lottery. I mean, this is what you aspire to, was to go to Bangladesh. Again, Trevor started all of this. This went on with other greats in WFP after Peter Jobber. There are a number of others. And we pioneered many major aspects of what WFP is very known for today, all started in Bangladesh. I mean, the VGD program, the Vulnerable Groups in Development program, continues. I mean, it's well known as being one of the largest and most effective poverty alleviation program for women in the world. VAM, the vulnerability assessment mapping that we do, started in Bangladesh. We had a cooperative government, regardless of who was in power. We could operate and scale up ideas that we may have had elsewhere in the world, and the needs were so great. We had such a committed government. It was just extraordinary what we could accomplish in Bangladesh. So again, just to repeat again, those of us who had the opportunity, it was a dream come true to be heading up the largest development program for WFP over those years. And looking at the staff colleagues who are sitting here too, we had absolutely top team. I mean, we had the best of the best working for WFP, local staff, many of whom went on to become very effective international staff in other operations. So again, Bangladesh was then and is now, continues to be, with Richard Reagan, a country where we have all kinds of operational opportunities to really set precedents that really have a global impact.
Okay, thank you very much. Yeah.
At the initial stage, it was a relief program because people needed to feed. But the time goes, people realize that actually the children are there. They need to have a little bit of education. And then they also thought actually that these people might do a little bit of gardening, producing some food. And they needed to have some health education program to, so that they are not having a lot of disease and everything. So that's how actually initially the development part actually came to it.
Thank you very much. Even in my case, before joining WFP, I didn't have any idea about that WFP is, running the development program as well. I thought they are only dealing with the food assistance and relief assistance only. But later on, we found that they are very much active, and they are, pioneer in many developing a many development program in Bangladesh. I believe in this. The same thing happens in the other country as well. So one important thing, that we see that conflict affected areas, that how food are being distributed. So if we like to visualize that, because as we said that it is not easy, it is difficult, but can we have some stories that how difficult it is to distribute food in the remote areas, particularly conflict affected areas? So Julie, do you have any story, that you can share with us?
Well, to be honest, it's the guys in the field that will have these better stories than me. These guys are experts on this stuff, and they've done it for years. I mean, one thing I can share, and it's true of the Cox's Bazar program that we're running there now and around the world, is instead of actually distributing food, we do things differently in some cases where there's food available in the market, but people aren't able to afford that food when they're too poor. They don't have access to it. So we give them, actually, I've got one here, in Syrian refugees in Jordan and Lebanon, we'll give them a debit card like this and upload $25 per person for a month for their family. And they can use that card then to go into a WFP designated store and have the dignity to purchase their own food that's nutritious, milk, eggs, bacon, whatever they need, vegetables. But it also, it injects cash into the local economy. Those designated stores will need to take on more staff to accommodate the thousands of refugees coming in. They'll need to reach out to the local bakers and the farmers to get new and fresh produce. So really what WFP is doing here is not just helping the beneficiary, but using that cash to inject into the local economy. And that's really important in a time like COVID, where people are out of work, where markets are closed, where it's difficult when people have lost their jobs and their income. So these kind of new innovative programs are really important. And it's something that we're using in Cox's Bazar. We're changing from the food distribution to the cash-based transfers. And also, as we're scaling up, as I've talked about scaling up this year, because of COVID, a lot of the world's hungry are in urban settings, and this is where we'll be using the cash-based transfers again.
Thank you very much.
I'd be happy to pick that up too and tell you how other modes of distribution that WFP has had around the world to remote areas and difficult places. And I'll take you back to an example of the Sahel. The Sahel, which is that great swatch of Africa across from Mauritania on the Atlantic, right across through Africa, south of the Sahara to Ethiopia, which goes up as far as Sudan. But that whole area is in serious trouble again now. It was in very serious trouble back in the 70s when WFP, soon after WFP had started out. Now, how did we reach the Sahel? Our shipments of food came into the West African coast to the ports like Lagos and various ports in Ghana, in Dahomey, now called Benin, and we railed it and trucked it up to the fringes of the Sahel. But how did we get it to those people who were really starving way into the deep desert areas? Well, when we came into it, there was only one way to do it quickly. We airlifted and we airdropped. And in fact, WFP managed the first ever airdrop of humanitarian assistance back in '73. That was over Chad in West Africa. I know the details because I managed it. But WFP has always been a cost-effective organization. Okay. Airlifting and airdropping is extremely expensive. So our first thrust in to cope with the immediate hunger was to go in with airplanes and drop it. But then, as things eased a bit and we got food in, we were able to go more traditional methods. And in '74, we didn't use a single aircraft. And to those remotest areas, we used camel caravans, the old traditional way of getting stuff across the Sahara. So what WFP has done right now, it's got about 80 aircraft, commercial aircraft on charter, and is in fact the largest freight airline in Africa at the moment, delivering not just food, but also mainly medical supplies, PPEs, and various things for WHO, for medical agencies. So yes, we will go to what we have to do, in fact, in order to prevent hunger, but we also use the traditional ways. In Nepal, for example, right now, there are headquarters carrying the food to the most remote areas. So WFP's guiding principle is cost effectiveness, but don't sacrifice lives if the only way to do it is to use aircraft and helicopters.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Trevor. And we have, number of our audience. They are Bonik Gaursundur. He is a civil servant. He is working for a civil servant academy He just retired, and he is talking about that, how we can address the poverty, and he appreciates the WFP's role in addressing that poverty issue in Bangladesh. So now I have two more questions to deal with this part of the program, and next part will be in Bangla, because we'll focus more about Bangladesh issues related to Bangladesh and World Food Program. So before moving to that part, let me just share one thing. The Nobel Committee also described WFP as a driving force in efforts to prevent the use of hunger as a weapon of war and conflict. So my question is, how is food being used as a weapon of war and conflict? If I think in North Korea, Mahbub, you were working there, or Douglas, you can also answer, or Julie, anybody can answer this question.
Well, I opened the office in North Korea for WFP. So I will address that question, because I've been wrestling it with it myself since the chairwoman of the Nobel Committee made her announcement for the reasons why WFP was being awarded the Peace Prize. The driving force behind preventing the use of hunger as a weapon of war. At first I thought, well, isn't that a little bit beyond WFP's mandate? Our mandate does not include conflict resolution. But thinking about this and talking to colleagues about this since the announcement, in fact, WFP is finding ways which it can prevent hunger being used as a weapon of war. Back to Sudan, when it was a unified country, and currently now in South Sudan, we were able to negotiate with rebel groups to say, okay, you've got starving populations in rebel-held areas, you've got starving populations in government-held areas. Let us deliver food to both. Now, this meant working out detailed arrangements with rebels. I negotiated, as I did with the government too. So many tons of food here in a rebel area, so many tons in a government area. And we need you to agree to stop bombing on these particular routes, on these particular days, so that we can freely move the food through to these areas.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Trevor. I'd like to ask one thing to Douglas. Douglas, there is a question from Syed Khabir Ahmed. Do you think that combination of development aspects with food relief could sustain effects for long? So what is your take on this? And also, I would appreciate that if you just share some, operational, issues while you were dealing with the Rohingya, the camps and operation. Thank you.
Oh my, well, we could have a whole seminar on the Rohingya situation. Let me start with that one. Bradley Guerin, who was the WFP director at the time, my counterpart in Yangon, he and I spent a lot of time back and forth over the border there at Cox's at the time when we had a much, much smaller refugee camp, and we had no idea, of course, how much worse it would get. That's a very difficult discussion. And being now a retiree with WFP, I can talk about these things, but we clearly have a situation where I don't see that being resolved anytime soon, mainly because of the Myanmar position. But I just want to point out one area, because I know that we're reaching the end of the program. But I was mentioning before, on this issue of relief and development and such. Another key accomplishment for WFP in Bangladesh was through country director Peter Dijkhausen, where factories were set up for the production of school feeding biscuits, micronutrient fortified biscuits that we could produce for a very small amount of money. And the school feeding program, again, one of the star programs globally for WFP. The point is, that when the tsunami hit at Christmas Eve 2004, I guess it was, I had a call from the Prime Minister's office. Khalida Zia, I believe, was the Prime Minister then. And her staff called and said, it's a school break now, and with WFP, and we have all these biscuits that belong to the government, but were with WFP logo and that had been produced for school feeding. Can we make a contribution? And many of you may remember in the tsunami, Bangladesh was actually one of the least affected, which is not normally the case, but it just happened to be that way. So we didn't need them. And one thing led to another, and it was one of our proudest moments in the office. Many of you may remember, in that Bangladesh was the first country to make a contribution to the relief effort to these countries affected. Indonesia, Thailand, with WFP biscuits from Bangladesh, owned by the Bangladesh government. And the US Air Force sent in a C-130 to the Dhaka airport to pick them up. And over all the years and all the issues of Bangladesh being such a, quote, basket case country, always needing all this help, it never ends. And here was an example where Bangladesh itself could be a donor in relief in the tsunami. That was a huge, huge issue. People were very, very proud that Bangladesh government could actually do that, and we're happy to be a part of that.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Douglas. Julie, I would like to ask you one thing about that, because we know that the WFP operation, we need any development program or relief program, we need assistance or resource from across the world. The government, they have to contribute. The donor agencies, they also have to contribute. My question is, how the communication department, or how important is the communication to help mobilize resources for the organization?
Oh, I think it's very important. I think the work that we're doing over the last couple of the last week, because of being awarded the prize, has put us, the World Food Programme, at the center of the agenda, and I think that sort of attention can help get funding, not just for our humanitarian relief, which is will make the news, but for our development work as well. And we need to really look at how we use a development lens on our humanitarian projects, so that they do last long term, so that we're not going back and supporting and saving the same lives, but hopefully changing lives, so that people are able to support themselves. So I think it's very important that we communicate with the general public, with governments internationally.
Okay, thank you very much. The last issue.
I'd like to address Kobi's question. We have proved it in Bangladesh that the development assistance with food distribution service actually gave a sustainable improvement among the beneficiaries. In Bangladesh, the kind of people actually recruited under the VGT program, they are poorest of the poor, and nobody would work with them. No NGO, people say we are not relief organizations, we cannot help them. So our food approach with the different kind of development training actually gave us a very good result. Like, once food assistance given, a lot of NGO came forward and said we can take them now because they have little bit, before they said we cannot train them because they don't have time. They are hungry. How can they attend the training program? So when WP food is combined there, and it seems that they're coming and they're getting training. And they actually also, one important thing is that these poor women, they are not connected with the bank. Bank could never give them any assistance, support. So our plan was to open bank accounts so that they have little bit of savings. So initially, it was a very difficult thing. Then we have negotiated with the government bank, and then we have actually started opening a small savings account with the banks. And this is a big improvement, I would say. And then so that they could save some money during the training period. And at the end, they could invest this seed capital along with NGO credit. And that gave actually in a good footing. They could do very good
Thank you very much, Shahid Bhai. Gaurav Sundar Bonik, he mentioned that the relative poverty and peace has a strong relationship. So WFP is in right track because they are trying to address both things. The last issue for this part of the program is we talked about resource mobilization. I'd like to ask that whether this Peace Prize, 2020 Nobel Peace Prize to WFP would help WFP to mobilize its resource, the resource it requires or not. How it will help. Douglas?
Yeah, all right. Ask it again.
I think what I'm saying that resource mobilization is very important because we need required resources to implement our development programs. So this Nobel Peace Prize would help us to generate or mobilize required resources for WFP or not, or how it will help us.
Well, I think this has been addressed a bit in the conversation. Trevor and Julie and the others have touched on this. I am still a big believer in the whole development component of what we do. Relief is fine and relief is important. We have to save lives to live another day, but we still need to invest in the same communities in the future so that their livelihoods can be sustained and wean them off any relief that we provide. We all know this has always been a really difficult sell, given that we are a voluntarily funded program. This is something I know Julie probably deals with quite a bit. I know in our liaison office work and communications, the public face of what we do, like with UNICEF, a lot of people don't realize that we're not the normal UN in New York, and money just comes no matter who you are, and that's just the way it is. We have to build confidence always with our donors, always throughout. And over the years, of course, the relief aspect of it has made that much easier. It's the CNN effect, as I often call it, that, yes, there it is. People are starving. We have to help now. And then as soon as we start explaining, yes, but we also have to assist them throughout after because they're the most vulnerable and the poorest, as Shahid was just saying, oftentimes you lose the interest then with the media and the donors. And I think, yes, back to the point that the Peace Prize now is actually giving us a platform. It won't last for long, but we have a window right now where once again we can revisit that discussion and remind the same players in the world through the media that it's not just the humanitarian relief aspect that's important. It's the whole approach that's critical.
Okay, thank you very much, Douglas. I think before we wrap up the first part of the program, if you have anything specific, any of you can share that, and then we wrap up the first part and we'll start the second part of the program.
Yes, I want to support what Doug has just said. Yes, we have to hit the emergency right now, but more important is that we support and we get governments to support the Sustainable Development Goals. The world is not a safe place until everybody in the world is safe. So right now we're $5.8 billion short of coping with the emergency relief, but we need trillions to help the world develop so that we're no longer needed.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Trevor. Julie, do you like to add on something?
Just something very simple. I would just like to thank Canadians for their ongoing support of WFP in general globally. They're our 7th largest donor and a very important donor, giving multi-year funding to our school feeding, to our humanitarian and development work, to forgotten crises as well as the ones that make the media. So for me, it's a thank you to Canada for their ongoing support.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Julie. Thank you very much, Trevor and Douglas. So we'll move to our Bangla part of the program, but you are most welcome. If you want, you can stay back or you can watch live. Thank you very much. Yeah. Okay, Douglas, you want to say something? You have to unmute your microphone. Yeah.
Yes. Before you wrap up, I just want to make one more comment. because I know we're at the end. As I mentioned, I'm right on the border here with Quebec, and I spend a fair amount of time over on that side when the border's open. And I've given a bunch of talks at local colleges and universities about this. And to Julie's point, it's so much easier to have these discussions in Canada than in the US, because there's even people who are unaware of who we are and what we do, there is a sort of a passive, positive view often. Whereas in the US, often you get more of a passive negative view, like they don't know it and they assume we're all like the UN and New York and that. It's always so much easier, I think, this type of job, explaining who we are, and now going forward with the Nobel Prize, now that we have this window open to explain the importance of development. So much easier to do in Canada, very important donor for us, much easier than it is here in the US.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Douglas. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, viewers, those who were with us. And next part is, we are not done yet. We will continue in Bangla next episode. But before that, we have a very short commercial break. We are coming in 50 seconds. Stay with us.
আপনিও কি ক্যানাডিয়ান ইমিগ্রেশনের কথা ভাবছেন? এই সিদ্ধান্ত বুঝে শুনে নেবেন। পড়াশোনা, কাজ বা স্থায়ীভাবে কানাডায় বসবাসের পরিকল্পনায় আমরা হতে পারি আপনার বিশ্বস্ত অংশীদার। কানাডা ইমিগ্রেশনের যে কোনো কাজে CRMA, ক্যানাডিয়ান রিসোর্স ম্যানেজমেন্ট অ্যালায়েন্সের ক্যানাডিয়ান লয়ার্স অথবা রেজিস্টার্ড ইমিগ্রেশন কনসালটেন্টের সেবা নিন। যোগাযোগ CRMA 45 নাভানা টাওয়ার, 8th ফ্লোর, গুলশান 1, ঢাকা, বাংলাদেশ। CRMA ইমিগ্রেশন সেবায় আপনার বিশ্বস্ত বন্ধু।
আপনার পছন্দের বাড়িটি আমার কাছে আছে এবং আপনার পছন্দের নেবারহুডে। সো মর্গেজের জন্য আপনাকে বিভিন্ন অফিসে ছোটাছুটির কোনো দরকার নেই। আমি আস্থার সাথে ওয়ান স্টপ সার্ভিস দিতে পারি। আর আমি কমার্শিয়াল রিয়েল এস্টেটও করি, কমার্শিয়াল মর্গেজও করে থাকি। আর আপনারা যদি কোনো বিজনেস কিনতে চান সে ব্যাপারেও আমি সহযোগিতা করতে পারি। আমি বিজনেস লোনেরও অ্যারেঞ্জ করে দিতে পারি। যে কোনো সময় আপনি আমাকে ফোন দিতে পারেন। ভালো থাকবেন।
সুধী দর্শক, বিজ্ঞাপন বিরতির পর আমরা ফিরে এসেছি। আমাদের সঙ্গে থাকবার জন্য আপনাদের অসংখ্য ধন্যবাদ। যেমনটি আমরা বলেছি যে এই পর্বে আমরা কথা বলছিলাম WFPর নোবেল পিস প্রাইজ যে জিতেছে সেই নোবেল পিস প্রাইজ নিয়ে আমরা কথা বলেছি। আমাদের WFPর যে ফর্মার কলিগ, যারা আগে কাজ করেছেন, বর্তমানে যারা কাজ করছেন, তারাও আমাদের সঙ্গে আছেন। আমরা কথা বলেছি। আমাদের কিছু ইন্টারন্যাশনাল কলিগরা আমাদের সঙ্গে ছিলেন, এখনো আছেন। আমরা বাংলাদেশ ভাষাভাষী মানুষ। শহীদ ভাই, আপনাকে আমরা শুনতে পাচ্ছি। আমাকে শুনতে পাচ্ছেন? আমাকে কি সবাই শুনতে পাচ্ছেন?
হ্যাঁ,
শহীদ ভাই বোধহয় আমাকে শুনতে পাচ্ছে না। আমরা এবার একটু যুক্ত করে নেই আমাদের আরেকজন সহকর্মী ইয়েমেন থেকে, আবু বকর সিদ্দিক। কি আপনি আমাদেরকে শুনতে পাচ্ছেন? আমাদের সঙ্গে আছেন বাংলাদেশ থেকে AKM শরফুদ্দিন। আপনাদেরকেও স্বাগত আমাদের অনুষ্ঠানে। আমরা এবার একটু যদি শহীদ ভাই, আপনি শুনতে পাচ্ছেন আমাদেরকে? শহীদ ভাইয়ের বোধহয় কোনো একটা ইস্যু আছে। আমি যদি মাহবুব ভাই আপনাকে দিয়ে শুরু করি, যে WFPর কথা যখন বলি, ওয়ার্ল্ড ফুড প্রোগ্রামের কথা যখন আমরা বলি, আমরা কিন্তু ভিজুয়ালাইজ করতে পারি না যে WFPর অপারেশনটা কত গভীর এবং কত বড়। আমরা প্রায়শই ভাবি শুধুমাত্র কিছু ফুড অ্যাসিস্ট্যান্ট দিয়ে শেষ করে দেয়। এমার্জেন্সি ইস্যুটা যে খুব ক্রিটিক্যাল এবং ডিফিকাল্ট। আপনি এমার্জেন্সি অপারেশন ডিল করেছেন নর্থ কোরিয়ায়, আফগানিস্তানে, বাংলাদেশেও ছিলেন। তো আপনার অভিজ্ঞতা যদি একটু আমাদেরকে বলেন, যে একটু ভিজুয়ালাইজ করা, মানুষকে একটু ধারণা দেয়া যে কত ব্যাপকভাবে কাজটি হয় ওয়ার্ল্ড ফুড প্রোগ্রামে।
থ্যাংক ইউ ইমান। অ্যাকচুয়ালি WFP, ইউ আর রাইট। অনেকে মনে করে বুঝি WFP ইমার্জেন্সির সময় কিছু ফুড ডিস্ট্রিবিউট করে এন্ড দেন দে গো। ব্যাপারটা আসলে এত সহজ না। যখনই কোথাও কোনো, এটা ম্যানমেড হোক আর ন্যাচারাল কোনো ডিজাস্টার হোক, যেমন ফর এক্সাম্পল আফগানিস্তান কিংবা নর্থ কোরিয়া কিংবা বাংলাদেশে, WFP প্রথম ইন্টারন্যাশনাল অর্গানাইজেশন যেটা রেসপন্ড করে এবং দে গো টু দ্য ফ্রন্ট লাইন ফার্স্ট এজেন্সি। কারণ ফার্স্ট থিং পিপল নিড, ইভেন সুনামির সময় the first thing people needed এটা হচ্ছে ফুড, তারপরে অন্য জিনিস আছে, কারণ মানুষের তখন ফুড থাকে না, মানুষ তখন হাংরি, ওই সময় মানুষ অন্য কিছু চাচ্ছে না। তো
এবং আমরা যদি এই যে এখনকার প্যান্ডেমিকের সাথেও তুলনা করি আমাদের কানাডার অভিজ্ঞতা,
হ্যাঁ,
গভর্নমেন্টের প্রথম প্রায়োরিটি হচ্ছে মানুষ যেন খেয়ে থাকতে পারে, এই জন্য তাদেরকে যে অ্যাসিস্ট্যান্স দেওয়া হচ্ছে সেই অ্যাসিস্ট্যান্স চাই।
এটাই এক্স্যাক্টলি একই, কারণ প্রথম প্রায়োরিটি হচ্ছে মানুষকে খাবার দেওয়া, এবং এই খাবারটা তখন ওই জায়গায় পৌঁছানো, এটা একটা বিরাট চ্যালেঞ্জ ডাব্লিউএফপির জন্য। কারণ এটা তো আর 1 মেট্রিক 2 মেট্রিক ফুড না, হয়তো সে একটা দেশে ওই সময় সে 100 মেট্রিক টন হোক, 200 মেট্রিক টন হোক, 1000 মেট্রিক টন হোক, এই ফুডগুলি নেওয়া ওখানে, যেমন আফগানিস্তানের প্রোগ্রামটাই যেমন বলতে পারি, আফগানিস্তানে যখন ফুড আসে এটা একটাই ওয়ে, এটা হচ্ছে করাচিতে ফুডটা আসে প্রথম, ওখান থেকে ওভার ট্রান্সপোর্টেড হয় টু পেশোয়ার, পেশোয়ারে হচ্ছে ডাব্লিউএফপির বিশাল হাব ফুড, সেখানে এই ফুডগুলির স্টোরেজ হয়, ওখান থেকে ডাব্লিউএফপির নিজস্ব, আমি বলছি 2003 এবং 2004-এ তখন ডাব্লিউএফপির ট্রাক সংখ্যা ছিল 300-র উপরে ট্রাক ছিল ডাব্লিউএফপির নিজস্ব, এই ট্রাকে আফগানিস্তানের বিভিন্ন জায়গায় পৌঁছানো, এই প্রভিন্সিয়াল হেডকোয়ার্টার গুলিতে, ওখান থেকে আবার লোকাল ট্রান্সপোর্টে ডিস্ট্রিবিউশন সেন্টারে পৌঁছানো, যেমন 1 মেট্রিক টন চালের দাম যদি হয় $150, এটা ডিস্ট্রিবিউশন পয়েন্টে নিতে নিতে ডাব্লিউপির কস্ট প্রায় তখন ওই সময় ছিল $850 মতো। তার মানে ট্রান্সপোর্টেশন কস্ট কত হাই ছিল এটাতেই বোঝা যায় যে, এবং সেখানে লোকাল ডিস্ট্রিবিউশন পয়েন্ট থেকে আবার ডিস্ট্রিবিউশন সেন্টারে আমরা ওখানে কিছু কিছু জায়গায়, ইভেন কি এটা মনে হয় ট্রেপার পেজও বলছিল একবার, যে আমরা গাধাকে ব্যবহার করি, আফগানিস্তানটা পার্টিকুলারলি আমরা গাধাকে ব্যবহার করেছি ফুড ট্রান্সপোর্ট করার জন্য, কারণ ওখানে ট্রাকও যায় না, অন্য কোনো ট্রান্সপোর্টেশন নাই, নো ট্রাক, নাথিং, নো আদার মিনস অফ ট্রান্সপোর্টেশন। এবং এই গাধার প্রাইস ছিল পার ডে 7 কেজি, আর যে মালিক তার জন্য ছিল 7 কেজি অফ ফুড। এইভাবে একটা জায়গায়।
জি মাহবুব ভাই, আমি শুধু আপনাকে বলি যে বাংলাদেশের অবস্থা, জাস্ট আমি আমাদের একজন ফিল্ড ওয়ার্কার যিনি চিটং হিল ট্র্যাক্সে কাজ করতেন, তিনি আমাকে বলেছেন, যিনি মনিটরিং অফিসার ছিলেন এই যে ফুড অ্যাসিস্ট্যান্স প্রোগ্রামের, তিনি বাসার থেকে যখন বেরোতেন মনিটরিং এর জন্য 1 সপ্তাহ পরে ফিরতেন, কারণ এমন একটা বাড়ি এমন রিমোট এলাকায় যে উনি সেই জায়গায় যেতেন এবং ওই অনেকগুলো খালের মতন যে ছোট ছোট চিটং হিল ট্র্যাক্স, ছড়া সম্ভবত, এই ছড়া পার হয়ে কাপড় ভিজে যে উনি একদিন যেতেন, এবং বেনিফিশিয়ারি যাদেরকে আমরা অ্যাসিস্ট্যান্ট দিচ্ছি তাদের বাড়িতে তাকে থাকতে হতো, কারণ তার ফিরে আসার সময় নেই, সেখানে থেকে তাদের সাথে মনিটরিং করে কাজ করে দেখে আবার উনি যখন ফিরে আসতেন তখন দেখতেন 4-5 দিন বা সপ্তাহখানেক পার হয়ে গেছে। সো এই যে ডিফিকাল্ট সিচুয়েশন গুলোতে যে ডব্লিউএফপি কাজ করে, এটা আমরা অনেকেই বাইরে থেকে বুঝতে পারি না,
কারণ এসব জায়গায় আমরা কিছু কিছু জায়গায় আমরা এয়ার ড্রপ করি, এয়ার ড্রপ তো খুব এক্সপেন্সিভ, এয়ার ড্রপ তো সব জায়গায় করা সম্ভব না আর কি। এখন এয়ার ড্রপ করার পরে ওখানে যাওয়া আর আসা, সাউথ সুদানে এমন কিছু জায়গা আছে যেখানে যেতেই লাগে 2 সপ্তাহ 3 সপ্তাহ
সেটাই বলছি,
জায়গায় পৌঁছতে, কারণ ওখানে হেঁটে যেতে হয়, নতুবা গাধার পেটে, নতুবা অন্য কোনো উপায় নেই, সেখান থেকে ফেরত আসা আরো 3 সপ্তাহের ব্যাপার। তো কাজে এগুলি বাইরে থেকে অনুমান করা একটু ডিফিকাল্ট।
জি ধন্যবাদ মাহবুব ভাই। আমাদের সঙ্গে আবু বকর সিদ্দিক আছেন ইয়েমেন থেকে। এই মুহূর্তে ইয়েমেনের অবস্থা আমরা জানি খুব একটা ভালো না, সেখানে স্টারভেশনের মতন অবস্থা চলছে, সেখানে ডব্লিউএফপির একটি বড় অপারেশন আছে। ইয়েমেনের অবস্থাটা কি এবং কিভাবে ডব্লিউএফপি সেখানে ফুড অ্যাসিস্ট্যান্স দিচ্ছে সেটি যদি একটু বলেন আমাদেরকে। আবু বকর সিদ্দিকী, আপনার মাইকটা আনমিউট করে নেবেন। জি
ধন্যবাদ ইমাম ভাই, and to organize such a beautiful celebration, and it gives us the opportunity to meet with all of our old colleagues. Yemen আসলে বলা যেতে পারে now it is the largest operation globally in WFP. Yemen 2/3 of the population, they are in critical food insecure situation. এবং WFP ইমার্জেন্সি অপারেশন এখানে চালিয়ে যাচ্ছে। আমরা এখানে যেটা দেখতে পাই সেটা হচ্ছে যে কিভাবে conflict these people they are in this critical hunger situation because of conflict and war and this is the economic instability. So এখানে hunger and conflict how it works সেটার একটা পরিষ্কার এক্সাম্পল এখানে ইয়েমেনে দেখতে পাওয়া যায়, and how this food assistance saves the life. At the same time, it works as a vital tool for promoting stability and peace in this area. So এটা ধরেন more than 2/3 of the population that are affected by the conflict and war. And food assistance এখানে আমরা রিলেট করতে পারি যে WFP এর যে নোবেল প্রাইজ এটাকে বলা হচ্ছে পিস নোবেল প্রাইজ, how this food assistance is playing role in the peace and stability, particularly in the conflict affected areas. So সেটার একটা এক্সাম্পল আমরা এখানে দেখতে পাই। তো ইটস আমি এখন যেখানে আছি এটা ইয়েমেনের একটা very challenging area office. The name of the Bodaiga office, the name শুনে থাকবেন Bodaiga agreement, stop of agreement also. And এখান থেকে ইয়েমেনের যেহেতু এখানে port and all facilities are here, তো ইয়েমেনের অপারেশনে এটা বলা যেতে পারে the main hub, এখান থেকে অপারেট করা হয়। এবং
আপনার নির্দিষ্ট দায়িত্ব যদি আমাদেরকে একটু বলেন।
আমি এখানে একটা এরিয়া অফিসকে হেডিং করি এখানে।
জি।
এখানে Bodaiga এরিয়া অফিসটাকে হেডিং করি। তো মেইনলি আমাদের এখানে যে অপারেশনটা আছে সেটা হচ্ছে যে এটা ইমার্জেন্সি অপারেশন, মেইনলি ইমার্জেন্সি অপারেশন, জেনারেল ফুড ডিস্ট্রিবিউশন, ক্যাশ এন্ড ওয়াটার ডিস্ট্রিবিউশন এবং নিউট্রিশন প্রোগ্রাম এগুলো অপারেট করা হয়।
আচ্ছা, ধন্যবাদ শহীদ ভাই। শহীদ ভাই শুনতে পাচ্ছেন আমাদের?
এখন শুনতে পাচ্ছি।
ধন্যবাদ। শরফুদ্দিন ভাই, আপনার মাইকটা আনমিউট করতে হবে, মিউট করা দেখতে পাচ্ছি আমি। শরফুদ্দিন ভাইকে আমরা আসলে পাচ্ছি না। শহীদ ভাই, আপনি যে প্রশ্নটি করেছিলেন যে ডব্লিউএফপি সম্পর্কে আমরা ভাবি কেবলমাত্র রিলিফ, এবং বাংলাদেশে যে বড় বড় কয়েকটি ডেভেলপমেন্ট প্রোগ্রাম ডব্লিউএফপির হাত ধরেই শুরু হয়েছিল, এই সম্পর্কে যদি একটু সংক্ষেপে আমাদেরকে একটু বলেন যে মূল প্রোগ্রামগুলো কি কি এবং সেটি আমাদের পুরো যে দারিদ্র বিমোচনে কতটুকু সাহায্য করছে।
ওকে, অ্যাকচুয়ালি বাংলাদেশে WFP এর অ্যাকচুয়ালি কয়েকটা বড় বড় প্রোগ্রাম ছিল। একটা হচ্ছে ভালনারেবল ডেভেলপমেন্ট প্রোগ্রাম VGD, যেখানে প্রায় 1 million beneficiaries come every 2 years and they get food assistance, এবং এই ফুড অ্যাসিস্ট্যান্সের সঙ্গে অ্যাকচুয়ালি তাদেরকে স্কিল ট্রেনিং, লাইফ সাপোর্ট ট্রেনিং, লাইক different kind of training like chick rearing and fish cultivation and all these programs. So once the beneficiaries are actually recruited and they partner NGO comes in and they form the group and they start providing different kind of skill training, and at the same time they save 25 taka in the bank account. And at the end of this food cycle, when they're ready, they can invest this small capital along with the NGO credit they get. And this food and this development inputs together gives a very good result. It's good for WFP Food, and also the other partner, actually they can also utilize their resources in an effective way. Like VGD program, we had a poultry program, for instance, for the VGD beneficiaries. যেখানে আমাদের এটাকে ব্র্যাক লাইভস্টক ডিপার্টমেন্ট ছিল আমাদের কোলাবোরেটিং পার্টনার, and we started a poultry program. So to start with, initially actually the poultry chick production was only 100,000, something like that. In couple of years time আমরা এটাকে increase করেছি millions of chick production so that we can supply everybody, and that was a really tremendous development took place in the government sector. And also we had for the veggie beneficiaries, we have developed different cadres, like those who are raising small chicks, they are called chick rearer, and there was a actually vaccinator, because they need to vaccine, and there was a group called feed processor, and there was a group actually who is to buy eggs actually from the beneficiaries and bring it to the local market so that the middleman cannot exploit them. So all these
মূল বিষয় ছিল যে লোকাল ইকোনমিকে আমরা কি করে মানে শক্ত করতে পারি বা একটু ভাইব্রেন্ট করতে পারি, এই বিষয়ে আমরা কাজ করেছি। জি, ধন্যবাদ। আমরা অনুষ্ঠানের প্রায় শেষে আছি, আমরা 2-1 মিনিটের ভিতরে অনুষ্ঠান শেষ করে দেব। আমি যদি আপনাদের কোনো ডব্লিউএফপির সঙ্গে কাজের কোনো মানে স্মৃতি জায়গা নিয়ে যদি কোনো অভিজ্ঞতা থাকে ইন্টারেস্টিং, সেটি যদি কেউ শেয়ার করেন, সেটি শুনে আমরা অনুষ্ঠান আজকে শেষ করে দেব। শহীদ ভাই বলতে পারেন, মাহবুব ভাই কোনো স্মৃতি থাকলে। আমি দেখতে পাচ্ছি শরফুদ্দিন ভাই এবং আবু বকর
আমি বলতে চাচ্ছি কিছু।
জি, শরফুদ্দিন ভাই, জি বলেন।
আমি যেটা বলবো, বাংলাদেশের দুটো বেস্ট প্রোগ্রাম ডব্লিউপি করে গেছে, যার ফল আমরা পাচ্ছি, যেটা হলো একটা হলো সোশ্যাল ফরেস্ট্রি আর একটা হলো ফিশারিজ। এই দুটো প্রোগ্রাম ডাব্লিউপি পরে ডাব্লিউপি এটার সাথে ছিল না, কিন্তু সরকার এটাকে টেক ওভার করেছে এবং বাংলাদেশে এখন যে ফরেস্ট কভারটা ইনক্রিজ করতেছে এটার কিন্তু সূচনা করে দিয়েছে ডাব্লিউপি। এবং ফিশারি এখন ভদ্র জেলে তৈরি হয়েছে বাংলাদেশে, যেটা আগে কোনোদিন ছিল না। এই জেলে ব্যবসাটা যেটাকে বলে, এবং এই জন্য বাংলাদেশ এখন ওয়ার্ল্ডে 3য় স্থানে আছে মৎস্য উৎপাদনে। এই প্রোগ্রামটা ডাব্লিউপি বাংলাদেশে ইন্ট্রোডিউস করেছে। আরেকটা জিনিস বাংলাদেশে ইন্ট্রোডিউস করেছে, আমি জানি না অন্য দেশে রেফিউজি প্রোগ্রামে আছে কিনা, সেটা হলো মহিলাদেরকে রেশন নেওয়ার জন্য আনা, যাতে, কারণ পুরুষরা নিয়ে গেলে ওরা কিছুটা সেল করে বা অর্ধেকটা বাড়িতে নেয়, যার জন্য মহিলাদেরকে এই ফুড রেশন, রেফিউজিদের ফুড রেশন নেওয়ার জন্য উদ্বুদ্ধ করা এবং এটা ইনভলভ করা। এবং মাহবুব এটা খুব ভালো জানে। এই প্রোগ্রামটা আমরা তখন একসাথে একটা স্টাডি করেছিলাম, স্টাডির পরিপ্রেক্ষিতে এই ব্যবস্থাটা চালু হয়েছিল। অভিজ্ঞতা হলো, আমি ছোট্ট একটা অভিজ্ঞতা বর্ণনা করি, সেটা হলো খুলনার এক প্রত্যন্ত অঞ্চলে আমরা অনেক কষ্টে ডাব্লিউপির একটা গাড়ি নিয়ে গিয়েছিলাম মনিটরিং এর জন্য। গাড়িটা যাওয়ার পরে লোকজন সব ঘিরে ধরে বসলো যে এটা কি জিনিস, এটা কি খায়, কারণ তারা প্রথম এই একটা যন্ত্রচালিত যানবাহন ওইখানে দেখেছে এবং সবাই জিজ্ঞেস করেছে এটা কি খায়, কিভাবে ঘুমায়, এ ধরনের কথা। এবং সেই ছবিটা আমার কাছে আছে, এই ছবিটা আমি তুলেছিলাম, লোকজন যেভাবে ঘিরে ধরেছিল আমি ফেসবুকে আপলোড করেছি। আমি হয়তো আবার এটা নতুন করে আবার দেব লোকের জানার জন্য। ধন্যবাদ।
I would like to add just one thing. Actually, the program, we had these training programs with the food assistants, like the poultry program, for example, when it was working so well and beneficiaries earned a lot of money. Actually, they had good income. That influenced actually other poor people who are not non-beneficiaries. They also started actually doing this business and learned from these people. So actually, WFP program basically influenced the other poor people also, to participate even without the food support program.
আচ্ছা, ধন্যবাদ শহীদ ভাই। মাহবুব ভাই, আপনার কিছু থাকলে শুনে আমরা অনুষ্ঠান।
আমার ওই প্রোগ্রাম রিলেটেড না, আউটসাইড দ্য প্রোগ্রাম একটা কথা বলতেছি। নর্থ কোরিয়াতে ডাব্লিউপির ওয়ান অফ দ্য বিগেস্ট একটা ফুড ফর ওয়ার্ক প্রজেক্ট ছিল, and the quantity was 25,000 metric ton for one single project, and more than 10,000 people were working at a time. তো after the work আমাদেরকে ওরা যে ডাব্লিউপি যে একটা বেনিফিশিয়ারি কন্ট্যাক্ট মনিটরিং করে, যেটা হোম ভিজিট, একটা হোম ভিজিটে গেলাম। যাওয়ার পর জিজ্ঞাসা করলাম যে এই প্রজেক্টে তোমরা কি বেনিফিট করলা? বললো যে এই বেনিফিটে আমাদের রিভার রিএক্সকেভেশনের কারণে ইরিগেশন ওয়াটার আছে, সেগুলি বলার পরে বললো আমাদের আরেকটা বেনিফিট, আমাদের ইয়াং ছেলে মেয়েরা they have found their life partners in this project. এটা কিভাবে? বললাম যে এটা কিভাবে সম্ভব? বললো যে তোমরা যে আমাদেরকে অ্যালাউ করেছো এই কাজটাতে, তো কাজে আমাদের অথরিটি আমাদের, কারণ নর্মালি নর্থ কোরিয়াতে একটা গ্রাম থেকে আরেকটা গ্রামে যদিও মানুষ যেতে ওদের পারমিশন দরকার হয়, দে ক্যানট লিভ জাস্ট লাইক দ্যাট, দে নিড একটা কমিউনিটি থেকে আরেকটা কমিউনিটি, দে সো রেজিমেন্টেড। তো বললো যে এই ডাব্লিউপির প্রজেক্টের কারণে বিভিন্ন কমিউনিটি থেকে লোক এসে প্রজেক্টে কাজ করছে, ওখানে আমাদের ছেলে মেয়েরা they met their life partner. So it was a happy ending of this project. So Labib project was not only for a food, it was for a romance and marriage.
Good job, Mahbub.
আমার মনে আছে যে that project related না, but it is also related to the WP project facilitated this whole thing for the young man and woman.
থ্যাংক ইউ ভেরি মাচ, থ্যাংক ইউ ভেরি মাচ। আবু বকর ভাই, আপনার কিছু থাকলে আমরা শুনি, আর না হলে আমরা অনুষ্ঠান শেষ করে দেই। আপনার কিছু নাই বোধহয়। ধন্যবাদ। শুধু দর্শক, আমরা আসলে আজকে ওয়ার্ল্ড ফুড প্রোগ্রামের যে নোবেল পিস প্রাইজ 2020-এর যেটি ওয়ার্ল্ড ফুড প্রোগ্রামকে দেওয়া হয়েছে, ওয়ার্ল্ড ফুড প্রোগ্রামের কিছু মানে সাবেক কর্মকর্তারা বা কর্মীরা আমরা একসঙ্গে হয়েছিলাম। ন্যাশনাল ইন্টারন্যাশনাল বিভিন্ন জায়গা থেকে বিভিন্ন জন যুক্ত হয়েছিলেন। আমরা একটু সেলিব্রেট করবার চেষ্টা করেছি, গল্প করেছি, এবং সেই সঙ্গে আপনাদেরকে ধারণা দেবার চেষ্টা করেছি যে ডব্লিউএফপি কি পরিসরে কাজ করে। আপনারা যারা আজকে আমাদের সঙ্গে যুক্ত হয়েছেন সবাইকে অসংখ্য ধন্যবাদ জানিয়ে আমরা অনুষ্ঠান শেষ করে দিতে চাই। ধন্যবাদ শহীদ ভাই, ধন্যবাদ মাহবুব ভাই, ধন্যবাদ আবু বকর সিদ্দিক ইয়েমেন থেকে যুক্ত হয়েছেন, বাংলাদেশ থেকে শরফুদ্দিন ভাই, সবাইকে অসংখ্য ধন্যবাদ জানিয়ে আমরা অনুষ্ঠান শেষ করছি। আগামী অনুষ্ঠানে আবার দেখা হবে। সবাই ভালো থাকবেন, সুস্থ থাকবেন। অসংখ্য ধন্যবাদ আমাদের সঙ্গে থাকবার জন্য।
থ্যাংক ইউ।